Opening night did not disappoint. It was an evening of impressive performances from teams like Alabama and Kentucky. Also, a night of pure freshman domination, including some record breaking performances for two SEC freshmen last night. And of course, an evening of absolutely painful losses. We're going to talk about how that had an impact, some of the huge upsets we saw here in the SEC. Let's talk about it in the rebound today on the Hoop Southbound Show. Hey guys, welcome to the Rebound. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the stuff that we've got going down here from last night in the SEC. We won't do this every week, just on weeks that are a little bit more front heavy with games that are going on the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule versus the weekend schedule. So since this one is kind of a front-loaded week with the opening night, we're going to do a episode of The Rebound as kind of a supplement to the Hoop Southbound show. So buckle up and let's recap what happened last night and what was an incredible opening night campaign. First off, let's talk about some of these freshmen, man. There were some players that we had circled back in our SEC preview episode that we said you need to be watching these guys, and two of those players were ASA Newell and Trey Johnson. ASA Newell for Georgia last night went out and tied the program record previously held by Dominique Wilkins in Georgia last season. What happened last night? Well, ASA Newell goes out and he scores 26 points in his debut. That ties the school record. Absolutely impressive performance. The Bulldogs held off Tennessee Tech 83-78 on Monday night. Newell made his first field goal and his last for the Bulldogs. Played absolutely great. 6'11" Newell was 13 for 12 from the field, and he also pulled down 11 boards, a double-double for him. There were also several other key contributors on the Georgia team, like Dakota LaFew scored 18 points. RJ Godfrey had 10 points and 10 rebounds, his first career double-double. And then he had a solid night, and Georgia comes away with the win here. One that they had to kind of scrap for, but that's going to be expected every now and then with the younger team. A couple other decent performances. Blue Kane walks away with 9 points. Didn't hit a three, which was kind of a surprise. In fact, Georgia struggled overall from the field with the exception of LaFew from three at 22.2%. Hopefully that improves a little bit over time. Overall, the shooting from the free throw line also needs to improve with the Bulldogs. But you got the important thing here, and that was the win. Georgia was equally as impressive from beginning to end, putting up 42 in the first half and 41 points in the second half. But like I said, ASA Newell, really the highlight here. Five-star freshman kid, was kind of not getting talked about enough, even from Georgia fans. Everyone was kind of talking about Santos Sarel, and we kept saying, y'all need to watch out for ASA Newell. This kid's extremely impressive. He's going to make a high impact on this Georgia team. He did last night, and it was really, really great. The other freshman phenom performance on opening night was from Trey Johnson. Johnson was ranked the number one freshman coming into the SEC this season, and he put it on full display. Why? He was also the only freshman in the preseason all SEC team, and he showed us the why on all those reasons. Johnson shot 50% from both the floor and from deep. He ended up putting 29 points and had 4 assists in this game. He breaks the Texas school record for the most points scored by a freshman in their debut game, a record previously held by Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant in that game, he put up 20 points against Alcorn State, not Ohio State. Incredible performance. Unfortunately, not enough for Texas to pull off the win, though. Ohio State did end up beating Texas. Longhorns were without one of their better backcourt defenders and scorers, Tremont Mark. They really could have used him some of his minutes last night against the Buckeyes. Ohio State just lit it up from three, going 14 for 28 from deep. I don't think this is going to be a game that's going to haunt Texas in the net later. Ohio State looked like a really darn good team, and they're ranked pretty high right now in KenPom. For Texas Texas, it's really going to be about being patient and hoping that big win comes down the road right now. Like we were saying last week, this was an important game for the Longhorns because they don't have another for sure game against a Q1 team until December 8th. There might be a chance in their MTE against Texas Tech, but that'll depend on how the other games go in that MTE. I also think Texas has some games to work. Will also have some games to work on themselves between now and going to Brooklyn. So not a ton to worry about if you're a Texas fan. I think you got to be encouraged by the performance you saw from Trey Johnson, but you really need to get Tremont Mark healthy and get him back on the floor. He's a big piece of what Texas can do this season. I wish we gotten a little bit more on if there was a possibility of him playing closer to opening night. I thought my pick in that Texas-Ohio State game might have been a little bit different. But Ohio State played an impressive basketball game. And I would say this at the end of the day. It's not that Texas was overrated in this basketball game. I think Ohio State might have been a little bit underrated. So earlier this offseason, you might have recalled that we were telling you based on the portal class and the offensive system that Mark Pope likes to run, that you could probably expect for Kentucky to be one of the best offenses in the SEC. Well, last night, they showed us that that certainly can be the case, putting up 103 points in their opening game against Wright State. Almost beat them or they did beat them by 41 points. The Wildcats shot 60% from the field. They were 11 for 24 from three, and they converted at the free throw line at 14 and 19. This team played an excellent ball game, but some of the other things that they did extremely well, that ball movement, outstanding. 30 assists in this game for the Wildcats. Great job. And then the defense really showed out as well with 11 steals and 4 blocks in this game. Took care of the basketball, won the turnover battle +5, and they did excellent on the fast break, going +31 on fast break points, and then one in the paint by +30. Now, granted, this is against a Horizon League team, but definitely some impressive numbers to get the season started on their first game of the season. Some standouts here that you need to take note of. Andrew Carr goes 1 for 2 from deep in this game, puts up 11 points, goes perfect at the free throw line, and 3 for 5 in the field. He had 21 minutes in this game. Amari Williams, we were asking how he was going to fit in. Well, turns out he was doing a pretty good job down low in the paint, going 5 for 6 from the field, puts up 12 points in 20 minutes. And then Otega away, 27 minutes in this game, goes 8 for 9 and 3 for 3 from deep. Really solid performance. And Jackson Robinson also goes 50% from the floor, putting up 8 points. Lamont Butler comes out in this game, comes up with 3 steals and 5 assists. Really good performance for him as well. Definitely got deep on the bench, but when you look at the bench, from one of the most notable standouts here is Kobe Brea, going 7 for 8 from the field, a perfect 4 for 4 from 3, comes away with 18 points in this one. Kentucky shot 45.8% from 3 and 60% for 2. These are numbers that really indicate the performance that Kentucky is capable of having. And if they play at a consistent high pace like they did in this basketball game, those points per possession and points per shot should be excellent for the Wildcats this season. They're going to be facing tougher competition as time goes on, definitely. You're not going to expect these sky-high numbers, but this is a very impressive performance that the Wildcats were able to put together here on night one. It's going to be very interesting when we preview that opening game between Kentucky and Duke for the Champions Classic coming up. That one's going to be a ton of fun when they face the Blue Devils and Cooper Flag. We'll definitely know a lot more about how high the ceiling is for this Kentucky team. But so far, great start to the Mark Pope era. Another game getting plenty of reaction here after opening night is the fact that Alabama put up 110 points over UNC Asheville. They go 38 for 60 on the floor. Alabama ends up shooting 8 for 18 from 3 at 44% from the field. Converts well from the free throw line at 70%, and then also won the rebound battle by plus 26. Yeah, excellent performance on the glass. 21 assists in this game for Alabama. Much of what you're expecting. And then 56 points in the paint. Look, this was a team that we were talking about, had some front court issues last season, and they got the job done getting into the paint last night and showed a lot of their potential that they've been working on this season. And when I talk about that paint performance, let's go ahead and turn to the key guy here that really needs to be talked about, and that's Clifford Morey. 16 points in this game, goes 6 for 6 from the floor, had 8 rebounds total, 7 defensive rebounds, 1 assist, and 2 blocks in this game. Very impressive debut from Clifford Morey, the Rutgers transfer. And then let's talk about also Mark Sears, who we definitely expect in and night out to have a good game. Goes 6 for 8 from the floor, 3 for 4 from three, puts up 20 points in 25 minutes. Solid performance from Sears. But let's go ahead and let's talk about some of these freshmen who played extremely well. LeBaron Filan puts up 10 points in this game, goes 4 for 7 from the field. Aiden Sherrill sees 17 minutes last night, goes 2 for 3 from the floor, converts 2 out of 5 from the free throw line in this one. Good performances there from those two. And then Darian Reed, who got the start last night, puts up 9 points in 22 minutes. Picks up a three along the way and 6 rebounds in his debut, and also a block. So pretty good performances here from the freshmen that we're expected to see time on the floor for Alabama this season. Some additional standouts here for this Alabama team. Jaron Stevenson puts up 10 points in this game, comes down with 7 rebounds. Really good night for him in his debut back, or his appearance back to Coleman Arena. Would have liked to see a little bit more out of Grant Nelson. 15 minutes in this game, only 2 points. Doesn't really get off to the hot start maybe everyone was desiring out of Grant Nelson, but coming off the bench in this game. I'm not sure if there was an injury thing going on that I just missed, but it kind of a strange deal. Expected a little bit more out of Grant Nelson, but Jaron Stevenson definitely filled that 4 spot up quite well for this Alabama team. Nice performance from him, and one that definitely stands out to you. There's plenty of double-digit scorers on this team. Diabate, 11 points. Wrightsell, 13 points. And Aiden Holloway, the Auburn transfer, also picks up 11 points in 24 minutes, going 2 for 3 from three last night. Really good performance from the Tide. Excellent performance. One that definitely should stand out to you. Now, again, this is against a mid-major competition, and we're definitely going to see the schedule ramp up here very quickly as they face Arkansas State, who's one really good team in the Sun Belt, coached by former Alabama assistant Brian Hodgins. But they're going to get a bigger challenge than that coming up in about a week against Purdue. So that will be a really exciting one to see how much this Alabama team's improved, especially on that defensive end. But so far, this is impressive, and I like what I'm seeing so far from Alabama. Let's go ahead and let's go to some of those painful losses that took place in the SEC. We got to talk about the most damaging one so far, and that's South Carolina losing to North Florida. This was one of those games that they're nightmares for head coaches. You're playing a team that you know you're better than. You know if you played them 9 times out of 10, you would beat, but for whatever reason, they will not go away in this one. North Florida just kept hanging around and hanging around. And basketball is about a game of runs, and boom, UNF goes on a 10-3 run late to pull ahead of South Carolina. The Gamecocks never got the lead back in this one. Both these teams terrible from the free throw line. If South Carolina had shot 60% from the stripe, they could have avoided this loss, honestly. And when you listen to what Lamont Paris had to say about this performance, it really was kind of not exactly what you want to hear, but he said, do you want me to be real? I mean, how do you correct free throw shooting? I guess you practice free throw shooting. Some guys shoot better free throws than others naturally. They probably have their whole life. Other guys, you can improve by practicing. So, key message here from Lamont Paris, got to practice these free throws, and that's something that definitely needs to happen. But now the Gamecocks are dealing with a likely Q4 loss on opening night. UNF is outside that top 200 in KenPom right now. They'll probably be somewhere similar in the net when it comes out. Damaging loss to start the year on your home floor. These are the ones that really hurt your resume, even this early in the season. That's a painful one. South Carolina is going to want UNF to perform well throughout the rest of this course of the season so that it looks a little bit better on paper than what it was. And then you're going to have to be what I call a splitter. That's kind of what we've referred to people in law school who may not had the best grade point average but had a really good LSAT score. You want to turn a really good student resume in to get that scholarship money. For South Carolina, compare that to making the tournament. You want to put this as far buried down as possible as you can with some good wins down the road and really have some good metrics to back you up for your NCAA tournament record. This season's now nowhere over on opening night, but this is a ugly, ugly piece on the resume to start the year. Definitely to be a team that's improving throughout the year and get some good quality wins as the year goes on, especially here in the non-conference, because there's the potential that you're going to end up putting a lot of pressure on that SEC schedule if you don't perform in some upcoming games like Indiana or Fort Myers. So a lot to pay attention to in this one. CMB was, of course, impressive in this game, 17 points, 7 rebounds, but he's going to need some help going forward. And you got to make sure you don't take another loss like this one. Otherwise, you could find yourself behind the 8 ball pretty quick. Credit to Buzz Williams for going on the road to go play a power conference team on the opening night. But Texas A&M just downright disappointed in all honesty, and we found a very key lesson on Texas A&M. Now, we kind of talked about it in our season previews. Texas A&M is a team that does not particularly shoot the basketball great, and they got on full display in this one. There were periods in this game where it looked like Texas A&M was in full control. There was no problem. They weren't going to have issues. And then both at toward the end of the half, UCF just figured out a way to stay in this game. Neither team actually shot that well. Just UCF kept pounding, and Texas A&M also missed some key free throws in this one. Texas A&M ends up shooting 36.5% in this one. UCF 34%. But yeah, that free throw line was a problem. Aggies go 57.1% from the charity stripe, while UCF just stayed consistent and shot over 70% in this game. I hate quoting Maddie, but she's right. Free throws win basketball games. It didn't matter the amount of rebounding that Texas A&M seemed to be able to do. They actually win the offensive glass in this one by +8. But it just gets all summed up by that play at the end. Aggies are down 3. They got a chance to send it into overtime. Aggies come up at board, offensive board, and miss 3 after 3 after 3, trying to send this game into overtime in their final possession. It never fell. It never fell for them. And just UCF is the team that comes out on top. Their fans are storming the floor. It's hard to tell right now exactly how crucial this loss is going to be for Texas A&M. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for them. This could still turn out to be, depending on how well UCF plays, to be a quad 2 loss. It might be an outside quad 1. That's about where UCF was last year. But yeah, this one can be potentially damaging if it falls lower than quad 2. So Texas A&M is going to want to make sure that our fingers crossed UCF plays well throughout. But I don't think it's going to be the most damaging. Certainly not as bad as the South Carolina one, and it might end up at the end of the day, if UCF stays in the top 75, one that won't be a huge problem. Then also for the Aggies, they have plenty of chances coming up as well to make up for this loss. They've got opportunities out there in Vegas. They got Ohio State coming up. Plenty of chances for Texas A&M to find some good wins before we jump into conference play to put on that net resume as time goes on here. So no panic for the Aggies, just one that you feel really disappointed in, going on the road and losing to one of the teams that are kind of outside the better portion of the Big 12 here in a game that most would expect you to win. But all credit to UCF, and I'm sure their fans had a good time storming the floor in that one. Missouri was another team that also blew a double-digit lead on the road in the SEC last night. Game kind of went pretty much as I kind of expected. Both teams kind of found themselves in a fight. It was high scoring. It was a track meet. Ultimately, Memphis found their way through this. Big takeaway from me, Missouri looks much better. I'm not going to lie. Even in this loss, sure, they blew that lead that they had, but this is a new look team with not a lot of playing time together. Once the Forum came to life, it was uncomfortable for Missouri in this game, and they just couldn't hold on to it at that point. But a lot of things looked better for Missouri overall. Now, there were some things that you could clearly point to were chemistry issues and things that need to be practiced. A lot of mistakes, turnovers, bad choices really just tore Missouri up, and could see the lack of chemistry that they just simply hadn't put together yet. Also, they got to do something. They got to do something on that defense. It was troublesome how easy Memphis could get into the paint in the second half. Found a lot of easy buckets that way. Led to a huge Memphis run in the second half that let Memphis rip this game away from Missouri. Still, even with the loss and with the blown lead, Missouri looks to have a improvement going on. They're just going to have to find some good wins, and I think that might be difficult for them. You could circle that Illinois game right now as one of the big ones that have a certain Q1 possibility about them, because there's not a whole lot of help in this non-conference schedule. Outside of that Illinois game, you probably got Kansas at home before you enter SEC play. Finding quality wins might be a struggle for this team this season, but they certainly are capable of it. And I think as they kind of come together, they should be okay. Just really need to improve that defense. Hey guys, thank you for watching The Rebound. We greatly appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't already, Please like and subscribe to the show. Appreciate you guys being here and hanging out and talking basketball with us. We won't do the rebound like this every week. Most of the week it'll be part of the main show. But with how busy this week is and with having the huge games that are going to be coming up on Friday and Saturday, this felt like a really good time to recap. Maybe give you something to watch in line while you're voting today or whatever, or over the next couple of days. We've got our my one-on-one conversation with Caleb here coming up pretty soon for Arkansas versus Baylor. Kind of a bad night for Baylor last night. So we're going to be talking about that as well as we preview that huge basketball game coming up. Don't forget, you can check out the episode that we released on Monday. We've got our some preview in there for Arkansas Baylor, Houston Auburn, and also Tennessee and Louisville. Huge games coming up this weekend. It's a really fun weekend to watch basketball. So if you guys have not already, please like and subscribe. Tell us how you think some of the games went this opening night, what you were most impressed with, what you were most disappointed in, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.